The winter of 1917 was merciless. France had become a graveyard of mud and blood. In the vast stretches of no man's land, that haunted strip of earth between the Allied and German trenches, silence rarely meant peace. Silence meant waiting for the next shell, the next scream, the next body to fall. Private William Carter, just 19 years old from a small town in Ohio, had been thrown into this nightmare barely 3 months after leaving home. Back then, he still carried the fresh innocence of a boy who had never seen war. He had imagined courage as something grand like a shining medal or a heroic charge. But on that night in November, courage meant something else. It meant survival. The order came at midnight. His unit was to crawl out of the trench under cover of darkness and cut through barbed wire that separated them from the German front. Intelligence had said the enemy was weak in this sector. Quick raid. In and out. Bring back a prisoner if you can. That's what the officers promised. William had tied his boots tight, whispered a prayer, and climbed the ladder into the blackness. His heart pounded so hard he thought the Germans might hear it. The first minutes were quiet. Only the sucking sound of boots in mud, the hiss of rats disturbed from their hiding places. The men moved like shadows. William felt a strange calm. Maybe, just maybe, this wouldn't be so bad. Then the sky ripped open. A flare shot high, bursting into cruel white light. And in that instant the night turned into hell. Machine guns screamed. Barbed wire clutched men by the arms, the legs, the throat. Shouts turned to screams. Bodies collapsed into the mud. William fell flat, pressing his face into the cold ground, his ears ringing with the crack of bullets flying inches from his head. He tried to move, to crawl back toward safety, but a blast threw shards of iron into his leg. A searing pain shot through him. He gasped, biting back a cry. When the gunfire finally ceased, the ground was silent again. Silent, except for the moans of the dying. William lifted his head. All around him, motionless forms. Some were his friends. Men he had laughed with only hours earlier. Now they were twisted shapes in the mud, their eyes staring at nothing. His own leg throbbed with agony. Blood seeped through his torn trousers, soaking the earth. He pressed a shaking hand against the wound, but it kept flowing. He realized something with a cold clarity. He was alone. The others were dead or captured. The Germans would be sweeping the field soon. If they found him, it would mean a bayonet through the chest or worse. Slow death in a prison camp. He had two choices. Stay and wait for death, or crawl. The trench line seemed impossibly far. Maybe 300 yards. But to William it might as well have been 300 miles. He dug his elbows into the mud, dragging himself forward an inch at a time. Every movement sent fire through his wounded leg. His body screamed for him to stop. But stopping meant never seeing Ohio again. The night played cruel tricks. Flares burst overhead, turning darkness to daylight for brief moments. Each time he froze, terrified the Germans would spot him. He could hear voices in the distance, harsh and guttural. Lanterns bobbed as enemy patrols moved among the bodies. At one point, footsteps came so close he could see the shine of boots. He pressed his face into the mud, not daring to breathe. A rat scurried over his back. The German moved on. William swallowed a sob of relief. Hours passed, his strength drained. He thought about letting go, about just sinking into the mud and becoming part of the battlefield, like so many others. Then he remembered something. A folded piece of paper in his breast pocket. His mother's letter. He had read it countless times, but now the words burned brighter than ever. Come back to me, son. However you must. I will be waiting. He pulled the letter out, though his hands shook too much to unfold it. Just touching it gave him something the battlefield could not take, a reason. So he kept moving, inch by inch, breath by breath. With each drag of his body, he whispered to himself, come back, however you must. In the darkness, his mind wandered. He saw the fields of Ohio, the smell of cut grass in summer. He saw his younger sister running barefoot through the yard. He heard his father's laugh, the creak of the porch swing, the taste of apple pie cooling on the windowsill. These visions were fragile, like candle flames flickering in the wind. But they kept him crawling. Once his arm gave out and he collapsed face first in the mud. For a long moment he lay still. The ground was cold, almost comforting, like it was telling him to rest. But then another flare lit the sky, and he saw just for a second the faint outline of sandbags in the distance. His trench, his salvation. It was still far, but it was there. By dawn, William had been crawling for nearly 14 hours. His body was a ruin. His uniform clung to him in frozen sheets of blood and dirt. His fingers were raw, nails torn away. His leg felt like it belonged to someone else. When at last he reached the lip of the American trench, the soldiers inside thought they were seeing a ghost. A figure emerged from the fog, dragging itself forward with skeletal arms. Face pale and hollow-eyed, clothes shredded. For a moment no one moved. Then someone shouted, "Jesus Christ, and it's Carter!" Strong hands reached out, pulling him down into safety. Voices rose around him, disbelief and awe mixing together. He was alive. Against all odds, against the battlefield itself, he had crawled home. William Carter spent months recovering in a field hospital. Doctors said it was a miracle he survived the blood loss and infection. They patched him up, though his leg would never be the same. When he was finally shipped home, he stepped off the train with a limp, but also with life. He lived to be 87 years old. He raised children and grandchildren. He told stories, though never all of them. Some nights the memories returned too heavy to speak aloud. But every year on November 11th, he would gather his family and tell the same part, the part about his mother's letter. He would hold it up, yellowed and fragile with age, and say, "War almost took me, but these words carried me home." William Carter was not a general. He did not win medals. He was not the face of propaganda posters or history books. But he was something more powerful. He was a reminder that behind every statistic of the First World War, the millions dead, the endless lists of battles and dates, there were boys like him. Boys who clung to hope, to family, to love in the face of mud, bullets, and death. His crawl across no man's land was not just a fight for survival. It was a testament to the strength of the human spirit. Even in the darkest night, even when surrounded by death, a boy from Ohio refused to give up. And because of that, generations who came after him, his children, his grandchildren, perhaps even you listening now, exist.